We often think of murder as a crime of passion, a moment of blinding rage, a heat-of-the-moment mistake that can never be undone. But sometimes murder is not hot. Sometimes it is cold. It is calculated. It is the result of a slow, creeping rot that eats away at a person's soul until there is nothing left but a void. Imagine a quiet, affluent cul-de-sac in Chuluota, Florida. It is January 25, 2019. The houses are large. The lawns are manicured. It is the kind of neighborhood where doctors and professionals live. At 9:17 a.m., a police deputy arrives at one of these large homes. He has been called for a welfare check. A concerned employer reported that Cody Amato, a 31-year-old nurse anesthetist, hadn't shown up for work. Cody was never late. Cody was responsible. The deputy walks up to the front door. He knocks. No answer. He walks around the perimeter of the house. He peers through the windows. Everything looks normal. The furniture is in place. The lights are off. But then he finds a way in. He steps into the kitchen. It is silent. But as he moves deeper into the house, he sees it. In the garage, lying on the cold concrete, is a young man. He is dressed in medical scrubs. He is curled in a fetal position. He has been shot in the head, execution style. The deputy draws his weapon. He clears the house room by room. In the kitchen, he finds a woman. She is lying on the floor, shot in the head. In the home office, he finds a man. He is sitting at his desk, slumped over, shot in the head. 3 bodies, a mother, a father, and a son. There is no sign of forced entry. There is no sign of a robbery. The expensive electronics are still there. The jewelry is untouched. But there is one person missing. The other son, Grant Amato. And as the detectives would soon discover, Grant wasn't missing because he was kidnapped. He wasn't missing because he was running for his life. He was missing because he was sitting in a hotel room nearby, logging onto the internet, desperate to talk to a woman in Bulgaria who didn't even know his real name. This is the story of a digital obsession that turned deadly. It is the story of a young man who stole his family's fortune, destroyed their trust, and ultimately annihilated them. Not for drugs, not for gambling, but for the attention of a webcam model he had never met. If you are interested in the dark psychology of the internet age and the crimes that happen when virtual reality overtakes actual reality, please hit that subscribe *** button right now. You need to hear this story because it is a terrifying warning about the dangers of parasocial relationships. To understand the massacre, we have to look at the family that was destroyed. The Amatos were the epitome of success. Chad Amato, 59, was a pharmacist. He was the patriarch, stern, hardworking, and the provider. Margaret Amato, 61, was a loving mother and a business manager. Cody Amato, 31, was the golden child. He followed in his father's footsteps into the medical field. He was smart, successful, and driven. And then there was Grant. Grant Amato was 29 years old. On paper, he should have been just as successful. He had attended nursing school. He was intelligent. He was articulate. But beneath the surface, Grant was drifting. He had been dismissed from nursing school for misconduct, stealing medication. He was unemployed. He was living at home with his parents, relying on them for everything. While Cody was building a career, Grant was building a fantasy. Grant spent his days and nights in his bedroom, staring at a screen. He wasn't playing video games. He wasn't watching movies. He was on a site called My Free Cams. It is a site where cam girls, Models from all over the world perform live for viewers. Viewers can pay money, called tokens, to interact with them, to ask for specific acts, or just to talk. Grant found a model named Sylvie. Sylvie was beautiful. She was from Bulgaria. She was charming. To Sylvie, Grant was just a username. He was a whale, a customer who spent a lot of money. But to Grant, Sylvie was everything. She was his girlfriend. She was his confidant. She was the love of his life. He convinced himself that their relationship was real. He convinced himself that if he just paid enough, she would leave the site and be with him. But love on a cam site isn't free. It costs tokens, and tokens cost money. Grant didn't have a job. So, where was the money coming from? In late 2018, the house of cards began to collapse. Chad Amato, the father, noticed something wrong with his accounts. He logged into his bank. He logged into his loans. He was horrified. More than asterisk 200, 000 asterisk was missing. He had taken out a loan against the house. His credit cards were maxed out. His savings were drained. He confronted Grant. "Did you take this money?" Grant denied it at first, but the digital trail was undeniable. Every cent had gone to one place, the cam site. Grant Amato had stolen his family's life savings to pay for the attention of a woman thousands of miles away. The betrayal was catastrophic. Chad and Margaret were devastated. They had planned to retire. Now their financial security was gone. Cody, the brother, was furious. He couldn't believe his brother could be so selfish. But the Amatos were a loving family. They didn't call the police. They didn't send Grant to prison. They decided to help him. They staged an intervention. They told Grant, "You have an addiction. It's a sex addiction. It's an internet addiction. We are going to treat this like a disease." They paid for him to go to a luxury rehab facility in Fort Lauderdale. It cost $15,000, money they barely had left. They hoped that 60 days of therapy would break the spell. They hoped the old Grant would come back. Grant went to rehab. He spent weeks there. He told his counselors he was cured. He told his parents he understood. He came home in December 2018. But Chad Amato wasn't taking any chances. He was a strict father. He believed in rules. He drew up a contract. It was a behavior contract that Grant had to sign if he wanted to live in the house. The rules were simple but severe. 1, Grant must get a job immediately. 2, Grant must pay back the money he stole. 3, Grant must cease all contact with the Bulgarian model, Sylvie. No messages, no emails, no tokens. Chad told him clearly, "If you talk to her one more time, you are out. You are disowned." Grant signed the contract. He looked his father in the eye and promised. But addiction is a powerful demon. And Grant's addiction wasn't just sexual, it was emotional. He felt empty without Sylvie. He felt like a nobody. Within days of coming home, Grant found a way back online. He used secret accounts. He used hidden devices. He messaged Sylvie. "I'm back," he probably said. "I missed you." On the night of January 24, 2019, Chad Amato found out. We don't know exactly how he found out. Maybe he saw a notification. Maybe he checked the router logs. But he knew. The explosion was nuclear. Chad told Grant, "That's it. You broke the contract. Get out." Grant was kicked out of the house that night. He had no money. He had no car. He had nowhere to go. Most people in that situation would go to a friend's house. They would sleep in a shelter. They would realize they hit rock bottom. Grant Amato didn't see rock bottom. He saw an obstacle. He realized that his family, his father, his mother, his brother, were the only things standing between him and Sylvie. If they were gone, the contract was gone. If they were gone, the nagging was gone. If they were gone, he might be able to find more money. The timeline of the murders is chilling because of how methodical it was. Grant didn't kill them all at once. He hunted them one by one. It is believed that on the morning of January 25, Grant returned to the house. His mother, Margaret, was home alone. She probably let him in. She was his mother. She loved him. She probably thought he was coming to apologize. Grant walked into the kitchen. He had a gun, a 9mm handgun stolen from his father. He approached his mother. He shot her in the head. She fell to the kitchen floor. He didn't panic. He didn't flee. He waited. He knew his father, Chad, would be coming home from work in the afternoon. For hours, Grant sat in the house with his mother's body. He probably played on his phone. He probably thought about Sylvie. Around the afternoon, Chad Amato walked through the door. He went into his home office. Maybe he saw Grant. Maybe he started to yell, "I told you to leave." Grant walked into the office. He raised the gun. He shot his father in the head, 2 shots. Chad slumped over his desk. Now 2 were dead. But there was one left, Cody. Cody was at work at the hospital. He was safe. But Grant couldn't leave a witness, and he couldn't leave someone who would inherit the money. Grant needed Cody to come home. We believe Grant used his parents' phones to text Cody. "Come home, we need to talk about Grant." Cody, the responsible brother, drove over after his shift. He pulled into the driveway. It was dark now. He opened the garage door. He stepped out of his car, still wearing his scrubs. Grant was waiting in the garage. Before Cody could even enter the house, Grant shot him. He shot his own brother in the head. He then shot him again, just to be sure. 3 bodies. 3 executions. Grant Amato stood alone in the silent house. He didn't call 911. He didn't cry. He went to work trying to clean up. He tried to stage the scene. He moved guns around. But then he realized he couldn't clean it all. So he decided to leave. He took his father's credit cards. He took his phone. He got in his car. And he drove. Where did he go? Did he run to Mexico? Did he run to the mountains? No. He drove to a hotel nearby. He checked in. He connected to the Wi-Fi. And he logged onto My Free Cams. The next morning, the bodies were found. The police launched a manhunt for Grant Amato. They tracked his location using his phone and the stolen credit cards. They found him at the hotel on Saturday. When they arrested him, he didn't fight. He looked confused. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Is my family okay?" He was brought into the interrogation room. And here, Grant Amato began a performance that was equal parts pathetic and terrifying. He denied everything. He told the detectives a story that sounded like a bad movie script. He said he had left the house on Friday night because his dad kicked him out. He said his family was alive when he left. Maybe it was a robbery, he suggested. Maybe it was someone angry at my dad about pharmacy stuff. But the detectives were smart. They pressed him. "Grant, we know about the money. We know about the cam girl." Grant's demeanor changed. He didn't get angry. He got defensive about her asterisk. He spent hours talking about Sylvie. He tried to convince the detectives that his love for her was real. "She cares about me," he said. "We have a connection." The detectives looked at him with pity. "Grant," they said, "she is a model, you are a customer, it's a transaction." Grant refused to believe it. Then the forensic evidence came in. Gunshot residue was found on Grant's hands. His DNA was found on the trigger of the gun. His phone GPS placed him at the house during the times of the murders. There was no intruder. There was no robbery. It was him. The trial began in July 2019. The courtroom was packed. The prosecutor, Dominic Leo, laid out the case. He called it a case of annihilation for obsession. He argued that Grant Amato had replaced his real family with a virtual one, and when the real family tried to cut off the funding for the virtual one, he eliminated them. The defense tried a reasonable doubt strategy. They tried to suggest that maybe Cody had killed the parents and then Grant killed Cody in self-defense, or some other twisted theory. But the jury wasn't buying it. They saw the photos of the bodies. They saw the bank statements showing the $200,000 theft. They saw the contract that Chad Amato had made Grant sign. But the most shocking moment came when Grant's relationship with Sylvie was analyzed. The prosecution revealed that Sylvie, the Bulgarian model, had barely any idea who Grant was beyond his username. She had never promised to marry him. She had never promised to come to Florida. When the money stopped, she simply moved on to the next customer. Grant had killed 3 people for a phantom. There was a moment in the trial where Grant's surviving family members, aunts and uncles, sat in the front row, weeping. Grant sat at the defense table, staring blankly. He seemed more concerned with how he looked than with the fact that his brother was dead. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. Guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder. As the verdict was read, Grant Amato blinked. That was it. No tears, no screaming. He maintained the same blank, arrogant mask he had worn since the beginning. The sentencing phase was intense. The state sought the death penalty. But in Florida, the jury must be unanimous for death. At the time, the law was fluctuating, but unanimity was the standard. The jury voted 12-0 for guilt, but they did not reach a unanimous decision for death. Some jurors believed that Grant's addiction and possible mental illness were mitigating factors. So Grant Amato was spared the needle. He was sentenced to *** life in prison, without the possibility of parole ***. 3 consecutive life sentences. The Amato house stood empty for a long time. It was a monument to a tragedy that didn't need to happen. Chad Amato had worked for 40 years to build that wealth. Margaret Amato had raised 2 sons. Cody Amato had saved lives as a nurse. All of it was erased because Grant Amato wouldn't get a job. In prison, Grant continues to maintain his innocence. He still talks about Sylvie. He still believes that one day he will get out and they will be together. It is a level of delusion that is almost psychiatric. The Grant Amato case is terrifying because it is a uniquely modern horror story. It couldn't have happened 50 years ago. It required high-speed internet. It required digital banking. It required the anonymity of the web. It shows us the dark side of the parasocial relationship. We live in a world where people fall in love with avatars, with influencers, with screen names. For most people, it's a harmless escape. But for Grant Amato, the screen became more real than the flesh and blood people sitting at his dinner table. He devalued his family. He reduced his father to an ATM. He reduced his mother to an obstacle. He reduced his brother to a rival. And he elevated a stranger on a webcam to the status of a goddess. It serves as a grim warning to parents and families everywhere. When does a hobby become an addiction? When does support become enabling? The Amatos tried to help him. They paid for rehab. They gave him a second chance. But you cannot help someone who doesn't want to be helped. You cannot save someone who prefers the lie to the truth. This story is one of the most frustrating and tragic cases I've ever covered. The sheer waste of life for something so empty is hard to comprehend. Do you think the jury should have given him the death penalty? Or is life in prison a worse punishment for someone like him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you are fascinated by the psychology of crimes like this, please hit that asterisk button. It helps the channel grow. And subscribe so you don't miss next week's video. I have a case coming up about a woman who solved her own murder by leaving a note in a sealed envelope for her neighbor. Stay safe, watch your screen time, and cherish the people who are actually in the room with you. End of script. Then he wrote the to-do list. Kill him with the knife, clean up mess before she gets home. Kill her with the knife, flush chunks down toilet. Turn up thermostat to 90, speed up decomposition. Muriatic acid, bleach, bins. He followed his own instructions like a robot. While his father was on the Bowflex, defenseless Joel attacked. It was a brutal, frenzied attack. Joel SR fought back. The autopsy showed defensive wounds on his hands, but he was overpowered. He was stabbed 42 times. Joel Jr. then waited. Lisa came home. She walked in with the groceries. She put the ice cream on the counter. She walked upstairs. Joel attacked her. She was stabbed 31 times. With his parents dead, Joel Jr. moved to phase 2 of his notebook. Disposal. He didn't just want to hide the bodies. He wanted to liquefy them. He had bought huge blue plastic tote bins. He had bought gallons of acid and drain cleaner. He dragged the bodies to the bathroom. He dismembered them. He put the limbs and torsos into the bins and poured the chemicals over them. He turned the heat up to 90 degrees to make the chemicals work faster. But the most disturbing detail, the detail that made the jury gasp, was what he did with his mother's head. He severed it. He took it downstairs to the kitchen. He put it in a large stockpot on the stove. He turned the burner on. He boiled it. Why, we don't know for sure. Maybe to destroy dental records, maybe pure madness. But he left it there, simmering on the stove, while the house began to rot in the heat. Joel Jr. had a plan to burn the house down to destroy all the evidence. But he made a mistake. He cut his hand during the attack on his father, a deep cut. He needed medical attention. He realized he couldn't finish the job. He couldn't clean up properly. So on Sunday, he just left. He drove back to Louisiana to get stitches at the student health center. He left the bins. He left the pot on the stove. He left the heat on. And he left his backpack. Monday morning, Lisa doesn't show up for work. The police arrive for the welfare check. They find the groceries. They smell the death. They find the bins. They find the pot. And then they find the backpack in the guest room. Inside is the notebook. Inside are receipts from Walmart and Ace Hardware, listing the exact items used to kill them: muriatic acid, extension cords, knives. It was the easiest investigation in history. He had left a signed confession and a receipt for the murder weapon. The trial began in September 2020. Joel Guy Jr. sat at the defense table. He wore a mask due to COVID. He wore glasses. He looked like a librarian. He was completely emotionless. He didn't cry. He didn't shake. He sat like a stone. The prosecution called it the Book of Premeditation. They put the pages of the notebook on the big screen. The jury read the handwriting. Get him while he is working out. Create alibi. Use rental car. They showed the Walmart security footage. There was Joel pushing a cart, buying the blue bins. He was calm. He was buying the coffins for his parents while they were probably sleeping in the same house. The defense had nothing. They couldn't argue self-defense. The notebook proved planning. They couldn't argue insanity. The planning was too logical. They basically just sat there. But there was one moment that broke the silence. During the sentencing phase, Joel Guy Jr. finally spoke. But he didn't apologize. He didn't ask for mercy. He asked the judge to give him the death penalty. He filed a motion asking to be executed. Why? Maybe it was a final act of control. Maybe he realized his life was over. The judge denied it. The state wasn't seeking death at that point. The jury took only 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. 2 counts of first-degree murder. 2 counts of abuse of a corpse. The judge sentenced him to * life in prison, without the possibility of parole ***. Actually, 2 consecutive life sentences, plus 4 years for the abuse of the corpses. The judge called him evil. He said, "The community needs to be protected from you forever." As the verdict was read, Joel Guy Jr. did not react. He stared straight ahead. He looked like a man who was bored. The story of Joel Guy Jr. is terrifying because it strikes at the heart of the American family. We trust our children. We invite them into our homes. We feed them. We support them. Joel Sr. and Lisa Guy did everything right. They raised him. They educated him. And when they finally asked him to be an adult, he decided to erase them. It forces us to ask, how well do we know the people sleeping in our guest rooms? The notebook is the scariest part because it shows the * work of murder. He treated killing his parents like a homework assignment. He made a list. He checked the boxes. He removed the obstacles to his inheritance. He wanted the money. In the end, he got nothing. The house was a crime scene. The money went to lawyers and the estate. He traded his parents' lives for a concrete cell in Tennessee. What do you think about the notebook? Is it the most damning piece of evidence you've ever heard of? And do you think the failure to launch syndrome is getting more dangerous? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy deep dives into the psychology of crime and the evidence that catches killers, please hit that *** button and subscribe * for your weekly dose of courtroom truth. I have a case coming next week about a husband who used a Fitbit to frame his wife, but the data told a different story. Stay safe, check on your family, and always trust your gut.